It's Richard Gladwell for Sail World, here with renowned yachting designer Greg Elliott. Greg, where did you start out in sailboat design?
It's originally started for me. I originally did a 5-year apprenticeship as a boat builder, and during that time, during the apprenticeship cycle, I did a course at Tech, used to be ATI at that time, and then shortly thereafterwards, or during actually, still an apprentice, built a boat which is about 26 feet long, and it was called Outsider, and it was very successful. And from there, somebody asked me, "Can you design me a boat? And can you design me a boat? And can you design it?" And it sort of started like that. Yeah.
So how old were you at that stage?
20 years old.
So what was really the first boat that got you on the international design scene? Was it Party?
Maybe, I think probably the little 5.9, which was before Party Pro. The 5.9, which is 1980s design. And then we took a couple to Australia, and a couple went to America and this sort of thing. So it was the beginning of it, in a way, just sort of gets the name out there. And then I went into doing bigger boats. But I guess you always go back to the roots with the little ones, which is, usually where it all begins.
Mm. What's the sort of design philosophy you've always sort of tried to follow? Is there any sort of particular genre that you go to or thoughts?
Well, for me, it sort of started with the racing. I've just been an enthusiast, in the racing side of things. Has really kept me in there. And naturally fast hull shapes is a big thing for me. You got to, like in the 80s, people were doing IOR. Probably people don't even know what that is now. And then it rolled to IMS, and now these days it's IRC. During all this time, years and years of that, I've just been designing fast boats. And yeah.
So, where have you sat with those three rules? Have you ever designed for them, or have you just done a quick boat and then see how it rates?
No. I certainly didn't do any IOR boats. I mean, that's just a joke. But when the IMS came along, it just so happened that some of the boats that I designed were okay. I did 2 or 3 designs just for IMS, and they were pretty competitive actually. I mean, I had about 6 of the 40-footers or Sassy, and 03 came second in the Sydney Hobart. It was a 40-footer, and Sassy represented New Zealand at the Kenwood Cup, and we won the Kenwood Cup that year in '92, I think it was. It was the first time we'd won it for a while, and so they were pretty successful IMS boats. But at the end of it all, the rule wasn't fast enough for me.
So what have you done? Have you sort of developed a following of owners that really go for your boats and don't really worry too much about where it's sitting on rating? Or
yeah, I think a lot of over the years. I mean, one of the things, like in New Zealand here, we have a Coastal Classic race, for example, and at one stage, I think with the way the divisions are, 30 feet to 35 feet to 40 feet and above. I mean, for a while there, I held every division on the line, and every record. Now I only hold one record in the thing with a 30-footer, which also holds the 35-foot record and the 40-foot record as well as a 30-footer. And so that sort of generated quite a bit of interest in people that just wanted to go fast and go for the line. And if you go for divisional side of things, as in length by length, it generates that sort of thing, as opposed to chasing a handicap result after the event.
So you sort of then transitioned up into the Maximuses and Murray Shahs and that real super maxi. What was the sort of design considerations you had to take into there from where you started with a 5.9?
Well, once again, it's still the same sort of principles, really. I mean, I've always been in the sort of the lightweight monohull camp. And you know, with Murray Shaft 4, I'd already did the schooner, which was a 50-foot schooner, Elliott Marine. You know, which it still, you know, still even holds a couple of records now. It still holds the only Ray 100 record, and it had done lots of good things around. I did the Transpac race with it and did extremely well on there, and Melbourne, Osaka, and all sorts of races around the Pacific. And with that, I mean, if you look at Murray Shaft 4 and you look at the 50-footer, there's a lot of similarity. In not just the hull, but also in the rig configuration, of course, pretty obvious. Schooner rigged. So we're from there, though. It was very much the elementary side of things, but I'd done all that sort of testing at 50 feet. It proved to be pretty good. I mean, even Elliott Marine held the record for the Coastal Classic for 10 years. It took a 100-footer to break it. You know, and 9 hours, 20 minutes is pretty quick for a 50-footer. So, you know, sort of just developing on from there into Murray Shaft really which for me was a big project because you know, I was working 5 years on that project from the very beginning of being the first one signed of the design team. So, big project.
So what was the design work you did in there in terms of, you know, original testing? And
I did all the conceptual design. We did pretty much all the drawings for the deck side of things. I was involved in wind tunnel testing. I spent 5 weeks in the wind tunnel here in Auckland testing rig configurations. We tested various rig configurations, right, you know, from sloops to two-masted boats and all sorts of stuff. Through to hull design, and a couple of weeks in the UK tank testing with hulls. We tried 3 hull variants, and just then there was a team formed, which was Clay Oliver, myself, and Philip Brion, and Jeff Tativo, who runs the project, and Mike Sanderson, who was a big part of it. So there was sort of like 5 of us that were really working very hard on the whole thing all the way through. But we were doing a lot of testing with Murray Shaft 3 and that, testing sails and testing all sorts of gear and everything like that as well. So I mean, and that was at regattas. So I mean, I was involved with that as well. So it's just a very long process to the very end, and but we got the required result for the owner, and it still holds the transatlantic record for a monohull, which is man-powered, not.
So those are all coffee grinder winches?
Yes.
Yeah.
I struggle to think it'll be broken. You know, and we hold the Pacific Cup record as well. We did that in 5.5 days across from San Francisco to Hawaii. So I mean, you know, it was a very big project for the time I was involved with. As I say, it was about 5 years from the actual beginning of the conceptual design I did, which, you know, we did in this office here, and it was actually taken and shown to the owner at the end when they did that exhibition thing of the Sydney Hobart race. And we put a piece of paper down, and the piece of paper was put down in front of the owner, and he said, "Oh yeah, let's have a look at it." And it all started from there. Very interesting.
So how does all that work you've done on the sort of the racing side up to, you know, 140 footers then turn around into your cruising designs, which are truly unique?
Yeah, well, I think it bodes very well for a cruising boat. I mean, the cruising boats to me is, you know, it's safety, comfort, and speed. I like the monohull. I like what I call the tourer version as a cruising boat. I think once you cruise one of those, you'll never go back. Being up, elevated, and being able to walk straight from the cockpit into the saloon and still see out the window and know what's going on around you, and have that, you know, just be part of the whole thing. And it's a really big thing as opposed to just about every other boat where you go down some steps into a cave. You know, the hull side of things I've just borrowed from racing boats, you know, all the good things. And the same goes with the appendages as well. I mean, my cruising boats have good keels and good rudders, and right the way through to the rigs and everything. So it just makes them good sailing boats. And I think it may be not as big a market as some of these other caravans that they sell, but I like to have good things.
So I mean, with the cruising boats, are they ever done as a production boat, or is it all one-offs?
No, we have the 1250, which has some fiberglass molds, and the 1350, which we're up to boat number 7 now. The 1450 was more one-off. The 1550 we do have actually fiberglass molds for those now, but there's been 2 custom-built ones prior. And the bigger ones, the 1650, and that there's been 8 of those built, but they're pretty much all custom, really. But they're off the same mould, but it's a temporary mould, not a fiberglass mould.
What do you do in terms of target crew size for those? Are you sort of aiming to be able to keep them down to one person?
Yeah. Yeah, they're set to really try to be sailed by one person. That's really what it is. All the controls lead to aft to the wheel, so you can pull sails up and down from the wheel. With a decent pilot and that sort of stuff, really you're sailing by yourself. And that's just what you do when you're cruising. I think even as a family, if you go cruising with family, you're likely to end up pretty much sailing a lot of the time by yourself. Yeah. So they're actually angled and set up to be really, single-handed, or preferably 2 people. But they're certainly not set up for people sitting on a rail. That's for sure.
And what about what you're doing down below in those compared to a race boat?
Well, one of the things with those that I've sort of borrowed, which is really good with this particular layout, or the tourer type layout, with the raised saloon, I guess you call it, pilot house. All the machinery and everything lives underneath the floor of the saloon, which means all those major weights, the tankage, the engines, generators, pumps, everything's all centralised, all in the middle of the boat, it just gives the boat a much better motion at sea. All the weights as low as practical. A lot of them are utilising a lot of water as we are able to transfer. So, water ballast has come into it a bit. You could call it water ballast, but what we're actually doing, like for example, the 1350 has 900 litre tanks either side built into the hull. So 1,800 litres of water, but we only ever fill one tank because you only need 900 litres, and we just transfer. And on a long passage, like just even going up north and that, it's very, very efficient. To stick 900 kilos of water on one side of the boat, it works well.
So what projects have you currently got underway?
At the moment, we're on the cruising side of things. We're just finishing another 1350 now, which we intend to have in the boat show in September. And with some other small production boats we've got. It's reasonably quiet on that side of things, on the cruising side of things.
What about on the racing side?
We've got a new 57-foot fast cruiser racer canting keel boat being built in Germany at the moment, which is quite well advanced, and that's launching date, I think it's due sort of August or something like that. We're just starting on a new project at the moment, which is probably around about sort of 35 feet for a genuine sort of racing boat. And that's pretty much it really, other than all the other day-by-day stuff.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Cool.
So now we'll start on the Olympic one.
I thought we'd thrashed that.